Rudy Gobert punches Kyle Anderson. And the reason for this, and everybody was kind of wondering why it happened. So the reason why Rudy Gobert punched Kyle Anderson is because they were arguing in the huddle. Kyle Anderson told him to block some shots, and Rudy Gobert told him to get some rebounds. And Kyle Anderson just said, "Shut the F up, B word," to Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert swung at him, and the Timberwolves sent him home, and he has been suspended for Tuesday's playing game against the Lakers. I'm not going to lie. This was tragic. I think that the Minnesota and Utah trade already looks like an all-time bad trade. Just when you look at the assets that the Timberwolves gave up for Rudy Gobert, Walker Kessler probably could have replicated Rudy's production this year. 4 first-round picks unprotected, Jared Vanderbilt, Malik Beasley, all solid rotational players. And people don't talk about this enough, but the Rudy Gobert trade led to the Lakers turnaround this season indirectly as well, which makes me sick to my stomach. The worst part about this trade is that not only did you trade so much for Rudy Gobert, who's on a Supermax deal, by the way, Rudy is getting paid $41 million through 2026. Kyle Anderson's contract after next season expires. Next year, he's on a 1-year, $9 million deal. 2024, he's an unrestricted free agent. It feels like the locker room does not like Rudy Gobert. It feels like the team does not like him. So you traded away so many assets for a player who, one, does not help your on-court product. The Wolves are better with him off the court, and the locker room does not get better with him as well. So now you're looking at a scenario where you have to make a decision this summer. And Kyle Anderson even said that. An employee of the Timberwolves recorded him, and Kyle Anderson said, "Y'all kiss his butt way too much. The fuck is wrong with y'all? Y'all got a decision to make this summer." And the decision might be to trade Gobert. Hilarious. And I don't know how they trade Gobert, but if the Wolves have to trade him 1 year after acquiring him for so much, this is already an all-time disastrous trade, but it'll just put the cherry on top as the worst ever.
You've got the part where
sucks.
The Timberwolves might have gotten the second best center in that trade too. And I actually am dumbfounded they suspended him. Why? Because you acquired him to make it to the playoffs, and you make this an even bigger story for people to magnify by suspending him. Now it's harder to move on.
He punched his teammate
in the shoulder. And Dehls,
nah, stop it, Joel. Don't be soft. He hit him with one of these. It was soft.
He hit him in the shoulder, and that's a terrible look. It shows the guy can't handle.
It seems like that was something that was brewing because you saw the way Taurean Prince reacted. He didn't
exactly.
He didn't break that up. He pushed Gobert.
He did push Gobert. He did push Gobert.
The thing is, John, I'm gonna let you go real quick. All I'm saying is this might be something that was brewing in the locker room, that there's some sort of animosity towards Gobert. And I think that Taurean Prince reaction kind of speaks to it. Because if that was just a one-off thing, I don't think he gets suspended. But there seems to be some sort of built-up something there that led to it.
That's a great point, because Prince was ready to defend slow-mo. You know what? I actually think the Timberwolves get better without Gobert because of his deficiencies. But ultimately, suspending him makes this an even bigger storyline. And the more negative press on him, the harder it is to move him in the offseason. And let's be honest now, with Rudy this year, they've gotten better defensively. He's an elite rim protector. But as Kyle Anderson was saying, everyone wants to kiss his ass because of what he did in Utah. But this year, shot blocking totals have been cut in half, and he's not the same player at 30 years old. Offensively, you're better without him. But I think the bigger point you made, Joel, is that his teammates don't like him. In Utah, there was a lack of, we talked about this with Quinn Snyder, discipline and just poise in close, huge moments. In Minnesota, we saw that again this year. It doesn't seem like Rudy Gobert can handle pressure well. And it also seems like players don't respect him. Maybe that's because of his lack of offensive skill. I mean, god damn, I have never seen an all-star with as bad hands. If you hit him below the waist, he can't catch a basketball. That's a pretty big issue for a guy you want to be the starting center on a championship team. But I'm just really dumbfounded Minnesota made this worse by suspending him in a playing game to where you lose it, it's do or die. You can miss the playoffs. All things considered, this is not what Minnesota was looking for in the offseason when they traded 5 picks to get him.
Undoubtedly.
John,
sorry.
Go ahead, Riv. No, go ahead, Riv.
Undoubtedly, we know Minnesota pulled the trigger too fast. They got a little excited with the play-in. They went in, they choked a couple games against Memphis, and they thought, no, this is a team that we can potentially get to the next hump. They thought Rudy was it. It wasn't. I'd even argue Walker Kessler with Jaden McDaniels and Ant Edwards probably makes this defense look probably the same. Offensively, they look better. So, but, hindsight in 2020 looks great. Definitely, though. The punch was odd, because I feel like a conversation between your teammates on a bench, we've seen scuffles. We've seen Jimmy Butler get into it with his coach. We've seen Draymond and KD. We've seen scuffles on the bench. We see Mario Chalmers and LeBron. We've seen scuffles on the bench. This is nothing new. But I think why people are zoning in on this is because, Rudy, your teammates already don't like you. You're already known universally around the league as some play, not just your teammates. There's players in the NBA that genuinely just don't like you and don't respect your game. And then for you to kind of do this and whatever they was arguing about, it probably wasn't that important for you to hit him, or probably wasn't that big for you to hit him in a most important game. Like, even with the shits that happened before with the Draymond, KD, those weren't important games. This is an important not do or die, but very important game against the Pels. You're down, you got to rally, and you go out and you punch your teammate, and you kind of put yourself in a position where now you can't compete with your guys. You can't finish the game with them. Now you have to get kicked out the game. I think that's pretty selfish. I think that's immature. That's irresponsible. And the way he moved and how he handled it was not good. And now Kyle Anderson is hilarious for saying it's me and him this offseason. Mad funny for that. But, listen.
Who would you rather have?
The Wolves wish they could make the decision that easily.
I mean, Kyle Anderson on $8 million. I'm taking that. Kyle Anderson on $8 million. Comfortable, but Minnesota, it sucks because a year later, you're now in a situation where you have to move Rudy Gobert. There's just there's no way of spinning it. You have to move him.
This is an interesting conversation because I'll tell you what, John, you made an excellent point. I agree. I believe that suspending Rudy Gobert only heightens this, where people are already talking about Rudy Gobert in a negative way, in a negative light, because of how when we see him on the court with Karl-Anthony Towns, the offense simply gets worse. And of course, defensively, he's supposed to be one of the best defensive anchors in the game. And this year, defensively, he's been solid, but he hasn't been the Rudy Gobert that we've seen of the last 3-4 seasons. The one thing I will say, though, to defend Rudy in this one specific scenario is he did not start this. Kyle Anderson came to him, said, hey, block some shots, while Gobert was already playing through injury. And so then he said, hey, why don't you go get some boards? He came back with a comment of his own. And then Slow-Mo basically tells him, shut the fuck up. Don't talk to me like that. Shut the fuck up, bitch, on top of it, too. Not only tells him to shut up, but he also calls him a bitch in the same light.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. You're 100% right. We're just going based off what we're being told. But I guess from what we actually did see, we do see Gobert go and take a swing at Kyle Anderson. And to be fair, Joel, you're also right. Taurean Prince did not go and try and separate him. No, he straight up pushed Gobert. He said, get out of here. And then Gobert was sent to the locker room. So I agree with that sentiment of maybe there's something bigger than what's going on and what we just see maybe in the background. Guys really don't take a liking to Gobert because they feel like he's a negative to the team on the court, and it's making them dislike him off the court. And I think that's unfair to Rudy because we understand Rudy's role and how he's supposed to work in a team. And it is not Rudy's fault that Minnesota decided to go out and trade 5 first-round picks to go out and trade Vando, trade Walker Kessler, to trade Patrick Beverley. That's not Gobert's fault. That was Minnesota's decision, understanding, as we all understood, that this was not a great fit for Rudy Gobert to come into. How was Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert both supposed to coexist together on an offense? It was already a question mark in hand. So, yes, it's been very easy to criticize Gobert, especially for the history and how people already don't take a liking to him as much already for what happened during COVID and how he, quote unquote, started the lockdown. So, yes, there's already animosity and disdain towards Rudy Gobert. But I feel like in this situation specifically where he's already playing hurt, we understand that the fit itself is not a good one at all. What is Rudy? I agree. Rudy should not have thrown a punch. No way, no how. I don't agree with that. That's your teammate. That's one of your brothers. You should not treat him that way. But I feel like a lot of this animosity, a lot of this hate is getting thrown onto Rudy Gobert's name, where yes, his play may not be up to standards, but what is he really to do when it's not his fault Minnesota went out and made one of the worst trades we're ever going to see?
Despite how much of a mess this is, I've actually been very impressed with Minnesota. I have.
I don't disagree. Honestly, that's a very firm statement.
To come back, understand.
The amount of adversity that they've went through this season. I mean, for one, Gobert punched Anderson, and they were down 48 to 36 at that point in time. The Timberwolves came back and won the game.
Insane.
Right?
Insane.
But not only that, but the adversity I've went through, for example, Cat has missed basically the entire year. The Rudy Gobert integration in itself was tough. D'Angelo Russell had one of the historically bad starts to a season that we've seen. I mean, he was ridiculously awful. And you had injuries to key role players all season. Jordan McLaughlin, Taurean Prince, now Naz Reid is out. Jaden McDaniels is out. And despite the Wolves making this all-time bad trade, there's still a way out for them to actually come out on top at all this, because they have talent. Like, they're not a talentless team. And it's crazy to think about it this way, because if they had not traded Gobert, the influx of talent on this team would just be that much greater. But you still have Anthony Edwards. You still have McDaniels. You still have Cat. You still have Naz Reid, who's one of the better backup centers in the league, who could be a starting center. Kyle Anderson is a Swiss Army knife forward who was a great offseason addition. Like, imagine if this team just had Vando and Walker Kessler and Malik Beasley. And I'm not even mentioning young players like Wendell Moore, who I think is going to be a serviceable role player in this league. Like,
Josh Minott.
Yeah, Josh Minott's all right too, I guess. But I'm more so like Wendell Moore. The Timberwolves still have talent to turn this thing around. And even if they can flip Gobert for even if they can flip him for a quarter of what they spent for him, I think they are still in a good position, given that they have, I think, two young wings in Edwards and McDaniels who they can build around. And listen, with Cat, maybe he stays healthy going forward more consistently, because when he's been healthy, they've made the playoffs. But I don't think the Minnesota Timberwolves are totally in the gutter. But they do have to make a decision on Rudy Gobert, because he's the one that I think is holding this all back from actually reaching its potential.
You still have the ability to build around and McDaniels, but this Gobert trade kind of limits your future flexibility. Trading all of those first-round picks, trading young players, trading movable contracts. So you still have the ability to move around or to build around these guys, but you're making it a lot harder on yourself. And the Gobert punch, I think he deserves to get suspended, not only because you punched a teammate, but I also think that if this was a different scenario where his teammates liked him and they actually were able to get behind him and vouch for him, it'd be a different conversation. If Kyle Anderson was able to go to the coach or the front office and say, listen, we're boys, we got into it, but let's move on, I don't think they suspend him. But the fact that they have had these problems in the past, now you're going to punch your teammate, I think that was just the final straw to say, okay, we're not going to have you on the court in a must-win game. And in some sense, it does make basketball sense, because as we've mentioned throughout the show, he's not the best fit for this team. I had these questions in August, September, whenever the trade was, right away. How is Gobert going to fit next to Cat? When you're closing the lineup, how is Gobert going to fit? When you're in a 7-game series, how is he going to fit in this lineup when defense is going to be able to expose him? So I had all of these questions going into the season.